finish it Friday. I'm stitching it my way. Just wanna be sit down with needles and knit down. Hello, hello, all my fiber artists, all my crafty and creative people. I am recording this video, well, on Thursday night to have it uploaded in the morning for Finish It Friday. So come on in, get your beverage, get your project, say hello in the comment section. Let me know what it is that we do together. And of course, if you're a crafter, tell me what's on your needles, what's on your hooks, and what is your latest FO. And if you're new to the crafting verse, and FO is a finished object. So that's what I'm sharing with you today. What is my finished object? Well, it is the Noble Crescent Shawl. It is knit out of Cascade yarns, Noble cotton. It is a number 3 DK weight yarn. It's a mercerized 100% cotton. And of course, this is a free pattern, right? Provided to us by Cascade Yarns. Because, hey, they want us to buy their products. Okay, so, anyways, it's okay if you don't knit, if you don't crochet, if you embroider, if you quilt, whatever. All crafty and creative people are here. And of course, I want to say thank you so much to all of my returning viewers. Thank you for choosing to come back, hang out with me. And of course, thank you for your patience while I briefly introduce myself to anybody who might be new to my channel. Hi, my name's May. I love yarn. I love to knit and crochet. Those are my hobbies, and I also happen to have been born visually impaired, legally blind, too blind to drive, completely colorblind, blind by light, but not totally blind. I can still see a little bit, but I do knit and crochet by feel. And as you heard when I was showing you the pattern, I do use a screen reader to access the internet. So this is my finished object. This is the Noble Crescent Shawl. It's off that free pattern. It is in the color Sun-Dried Tomato. Now, of course, being colorblind, I definitely had to get assistance shopping for that color. Because, yeah, I thought for sure it had too much orange in it for me to wear. My sister said, no, you can wear that. So here it is. You know, I think this is a good pattern. If you're unsure about the yarn, I can so far say that I do like it for shawls. I think it has really, I think it's got nice drape, right? Here I am, if you're blind or visually impaired. I am wearing a gray tank top with a gray and blue skirt that I knit and crochet, designed myself. And here I am putting on my sun-dried tomato shawl on top over my shoulders. So I'm wearing a tank top. It is nice. It feels nice. It's got nice drape to it. And you know, in the summertime, when you got bare shoulders in the evening, having this nice light cotton, it feels cool. It feels nice on my skin, right? So I'm liking the feel of this on a warm summer's evening, because that's what we got going on here. Let me tell you, warm summer's evening. So I am liking this shawl. I like the shawl. I like the pattern. I like the feel of the cotton. So let's talk about the pattern a little bit. First, we start with our cast on. And the cast on starts up here at the base of the neck, right? The top. This is starting at the top, and we're working our way down. We're starting at the base of the neck. And what she says is, she says cast on 3 stitches. Knit 4 rows. Do not turn your work. Slide your stitches to the other end of the row, and then pick up 3 stitches along the 4 stitches that you work, and then, you know, pick up 3 more stitches on the cast on edge. I'm going to be really honest with you. I struggled with those directions. I found them confusing. I tried my best to follow them. I didn't like what I was working with, and so I had worked several rows of the shawl, and I decided, you know what? I think I need to just rip that out and start it over again. Now, I'm not saying it was a poorly written pattern. I am not very experienced at knitting shawls. I've only knit a few shawls, so I'm fairly new to knitting shawls. I want to understand them better, want to do them better. I think they are beautiful. So I'm not saying the pattern is poorly written. What I'm saying is, I found the instructions for the cast on confusing. But I'll be the first to admit to you that could be complete lack of knowledge on my part, okay? It could be. It could be ignorance. It could be lack of knowledge. So I went ahead and redid my cast on. I cast on 3 stitches. Then I worked 6 rows. I just found that better for me. And then I turned my work, did the 90-degree, did the garter tab, and picked up 3 stitches along those 6 stitches that I just worked, and then turned my work and picked up 3 stitches along my cast on edge. Okay, so I did modify the pattern a little bit, likely due to, lack of knowledge on my part, But I'm just saying, if you struggle with the instructions for the cast on edge, let me know. If you've ever worked this pattern before, let me know. I'd love to hear it. Love to hear your experience of it. Love to hear if you were able to follow the instructions for the cast on. Could you follow it? Did you like it? How did it work? It kind of sounds like she's doing like maybe an I-cord edge, like an I-cord tab on that edge. That's usually what you do when you slide your stitches to the other end of the work. It would pull the work around the back like an I-cord and then pick up. I just struggled with that. I'm not saying I couldn't try it again, because I probably could, and maybe I get it to work out the next time. It was my very first time trying to work that way on the beginning of a shawl, on a shawl cast on. So I just found it confusing. So anyways, but let me know if anybody else has worked that pattern. Let me know if they struggled with the instructions on the cast on. Let me know if they just went with it, if you modified it like me to a regular garter stitch tab. But once we get past the cast on, I found all the rest of the instructions easy to follow. I did. It's really a very simple pattern. She says to put in stitch markers. I totally agree with that. I have a whole video on my channel about stitch markers, right? Tool Talk. It's called Tool Talk. Let's talk about stitch markers. And she suggests that you use stitch markers to create your garter stitch edging, and I totally get that. You knit 3, right? And then you work, and then you put your stitch marker in, and you work through your pattern. You got your 3 stitches. You put a stitch marker in and keep 3 stitches of garter stitch on each edge. Love that. So then you work a garter stitch section. Then you work a mesh section, which is just, it's just, once you work your garter stitch section, that's just like a knit 2 together, yarn over, knit 2 together, yarn over all the way across. And then of course your reverse side of that is just purl, right? And then you've got stockinette for several rows. And that's all it is. It's garter stitch, mesh, stockinette, garter stitch, mesh, stockinette, garter stitch. This is a free pattern. I'm not giving away anybody's work. Not taking credit for. I believe the designer's a woman named Cheryl, and overall I like it, except for my confusion on the cast on. Just to note, you do switch up your needle sizes. You go from a 7 to a 6. You work the mesh in a 6, those 2 sections. I don't mind that. I see why she did it. I love to play with hook and needle size and my own designs. I change up and go through hooks and needle sizes all the time. So just something to be mindful of, though, so you don't forget, right? Because I sometimes forget those things. But I like it. I like the look. I understand why she did it. So other than that, I believe I ended up with way more stitches than she did. I believe I ended up doing a few extra rows in both of my stockinette sections, okay? So I think she ended up pattern on like 301 stitches. I think I ended mine on something like 327 or something. So I ended up with a few, or maybe like 325, something like that. I ended up with a couple more repeats in my stockinette section. Not a big deal, but if you're like me, right, and you lose track, basically what happened is I was just knitting in stockinette and shock, right? Shock! I lost track of my rows and how many rows I was doing. Is anybody surprised? Nobody should be surprised at all. In fact, it was probably, when I was hanging out with y'all, who knows? But I watch different podcasts, listen to audiobooks, knit well past when I should at night, right? Well past my bedtime, basically, right? And so knit when I'm tired, knit too early, knit at 5 o'clock in the morning when I'm awake, knit at 1 o'clock in the morning when I'm awake, because I got insomnia. So I lost track of what I was doing. It ended up with somewhat more rows. Nothing wrong with that in my opinion. I just had a little bit longer of a shawl. However, if you are like me and you do that, you will need a third skein of yarn. The pattern is written. It says 2 skeins of yarn. And had I followed the directions, I could have finished the pattern with 2 skeins of yarn, okay? But I didn't. So I had to tap into a third skein. Thank goodness I had it right here with me. Tapped into that, not a problem. I was on my last 2 rows of the garter stitches, so I had to finish my second to the last row garter stitch, do my last row garter stitch, and then of course the bind up, which bind ups are yarn eaters, of course, right? So I did need my third skein for that. So just be mindful of that. If for some reason you're looking at it and you think 301 stitches, it just won't do for some reason, you might need that third skein. Or if you're like me and you lose track of what you're doing, you might need that third skein. Or if you're a super loose knitter, I'm kind of a tight knitter. So, I would have gotten by with 2 skeins had I followed the directions. Anyways, other than that, the other modifications that I did, if you're on my channel, if you're a regular viewer of my videos, you'll hear me talking about the fact that I have a bad habit of binding off too tight, right? You hear that all the time, bind off too tight. So for my bind off, I went ahead, I bumped that up to a size 8 or a 5 millimeter needle for the bind off. And then I did not just do a standard bind off. If you knit, usually your standard bind off is you knit the first stitch, you knit the second stitch, then you take the first stitch and you pass it over the second stitch that you made, 1 stitch on the needle, right? And you continue. Well, I did a really stretchy bind off. I don't know what it's called, but I think it's great for shawls, right? That's great. Look at the edge on that shawl. That's really good. In my opinion, I like it. So what I did is on the size 8 needle, I just left my project on the 7 needle. There's no need to transfer your work to a size 8 needle. There's not. You don't even have to change your needle tip on your left hand needle, okay? If you don't know that, you don't have to. It's really about the right hand, the working needle, the right hand needle. That's the one where I went up to the 8. And then I knit my first stitch, I knit my second stitch, then I knit those 2 together through the back loop. Then I knit the next stitch, and then I knit that one together through the back loop with the previous stitch. And that's what I did along the entire bind off of this shawl. And I'm just going to tell you, I'm really happy with it. Okay, I've messed off numerous bind offs because I didn't go up enough or because I didn't do the knit 2 together through the back loop. I have. And so I'm super, super happy, super pleased with the bind off, with the yarn, with the pattern. So that's just my experience with the pattern. That's my experience with the yarn. That's my FO for this week. So as always, my friends, I'd love to hear from you. Let me know if you've worked with Cascade Noble Cotton. Let me know if you made the pattern before, the Noble Crescent Shawl. And, even if not, let me know what your thoughts are on mercerized cotton, right? I think it's great for shawls so far. And, of course, just let me know. Say hello in the comment section. And let me know what your weekend plans are because, hey, this video will be up for Finish It Friday. So, what are you doing? Are you hanging out at home? Are you cleaning the house? Are you going out doing some vacay? Are you doing a road trip? Are you just trying to stay cool? Woo, right? Yeah, it's hot. So anyways, okay, well, I just hope that you all have a good weekend, a safe weekend, hopefully. And as always, you know what I like to end with, that creativity is for everybody, whether you see or you see like me, where there's not so much night in the day and not in color, or you don't see at all. Creativity is for you. That's right. And whether it's knitting or crocheting or sewing or quilting or beading or sculpting or painting or weaving or carving or whatever it is that you do, yeah, today is a great day to craft and create. Thanks so much for listening. And bye-bye for now. And if you do stick around to the end, you know, I will turn on the light for you because, hey, I can accommodate sighted people. I will turn on the light for you so you can see the shawl better. Because I know sighted people need light to see. Okay, let me put you on pause. Let me take you off the tripod. Okay, here we are. We got the light turned on. Here is the shawl. Look at that. I'll show it to you. Tip to tip, right? Here's my cast on that I reworked. Do you want to take a look at that? Yeah. And then this is what it is. Like I said, it's pretty simple. You got garter stitch at the top. You got mesh in the middle. You got some stockinette. And then you repeat. Garter, mesh, stockinette. Finish it off with some garter. Pretty simple. I wouldn't call it necessarily a beginner project because of the cast on, right? Because the cast on is a little bit tricky. So I wouldn't necessarily call this a beginner knitting project, but I would definitely say, it's a good, I don't know, maybe advanced beginner if you can navigate the cast on, maybe advanced beginner or intermediate. I consider myself to be an intermediate knitter, and I did struggle with the cast on. So we probably better say like an intermediate type project. But I do think it's a good beginner shawl because a lot of knit shawls start that way, in the middle, in the center. And so I think if you're like me and you're struggling to try and learn some type of method, whether it's what she was trying to explain, possibly with the I-cord edger tab, or whether you're trying to experiment with learning how to do a garter stitch tab like I did, I think either way, it's a good beginner intro to crescent shawls, right? It's called the noble crescent. This shape was called a crescent shawl. So if you're wanting to learn how to make crescent shawls, I think it's a good one if it's your first, because you don't, beyond the cast on, you don't have to have a lot of advanced knitting skills, right? If you can do the knit two together, right? That's the most advanced you get beyond the cast on, is the knit two together in the mesh section. And if you saw this on a Whip Wednesday video, it's also beyond the mesh. You don't have to do a lot of concentrating or counting. It's largely stockinette and garter. So it's definitely a pattern that you can work when you're watching TV, when you're tired, beyond the mesh section, when you're listening to an audiobook, when you're having a conversation with somebody. It's a great pattern for that, where you don't really have to pay too much attention, except of course to your rows, like me, who I did not. So mine's a little bit extra long. Like I said, mine's probably got about 24 extra stitches compared to how the pattern's written. Alrighty, my friends. Well, thank you so much for listening. And until next time, happy stitching. Bye-bye for now.